Welcome to the Gab Lab, a show where we tinker with titillating topics and explore the effulgent excellence of existence. We cover a wide range of subjects that are sure to intrigue you, so stick around and stay curious.
Gab Lab.
Welcome to another episode of the Gab Lab. I'm your host, Michael Wilson. Today's episode, we'll be talking with Brooke Smokelin. Brooke Smokelin is a good friend of mine from the Pittsburgh area. She is a yoga teacher, musician, songwriter, sound healer, environmental artist, environmental educator, and visionary creator of events. She's the founder and director of the Chakra Activation Yoga and the creator of the Chakra Activation Deck. Chakra Activation Yoga is a unique fusion style of classic static hatha asanas and dynamic kundalini kriyas, sequenced to awaken, explore, and balance each of the 7 chakra energy centers. The Chakra Activation Deck is a fun, useful tool for inspiring and designing a home-based chakra-themed yoga practice. There are 70 plus beautiful, densely informative, and color-coded flashcards. I have one in my house and I really love it. Brooke has 25 years of yoga teaching and studying in the Kundalini, Shivananda, Kriya, and Ashtanga traditions. Is currently an ERYT YACEP, offering advanced trainings to yoga teachers and students all over the world. Her Chakra Activation Yoga provides students and teachers with a wealth of yogic tools and techniques to ignite the light and positively embody their full spectrum selves. Brooke is also a musician, songwriter, and sound healer as well, and she brings all kinds of music medicine to yoga studios, festivals, and communities all around the country. It might be the ecstatic mantra trance chanting from her self-released album Vox Lumina's Music is Medicine, or the deeply relaxing and restorative Crystal Bowl sound bath. Sometimes she will combine them both with a high vibe, body grooving trance dance set as a musical medicine experience. I've been to many of Brooke's sound healings. She actually played sound bowls for my ex-wife and I's wedding, and I've been to her musical events as Vox Lumina. And she also just recently collaborated with me and some other facilitators at the Winter Solstice Sonic Shamanic Journey, which was an Amanita and Blue Lotus ceremony at my house. So she's a really awesome person, and she's been a good friend of mine for a number of years. And she's about to start a Chakra Activation Series on Sunday. And this will be released today, Wednesday. So if you would like to learn more about that, just listen to this episode, and also check out the links in the description, and hope you enjoy. All right. Brooke Smokelin, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Hi, Michael.
Good to have you here, an old-time friend and colleague of mine, Pittsburgh local. Thank you for joining me on this chilly January day.
No, it's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. So this is going to be the first of, I think we're going to have probably 7 more podcasts, one per month, throughout the beginning of this year, 2024, going through each chakra. And as we go along through each chakra, I'll be actually participating in your chakra activation course. And so I'm really excited for that. And yeah, so
Me too. I'm so glad you're joining us. I'm excited.
I've wanted to do it for years. It just felt like this is the year to activate. So
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah.
yeah,
And this is the 21st year. I think I told you that that I'm leading this sacred journey up the spine. And this is kind of my flagship course that is the foundation of many other things that I do, but I'm thrilled that you're going to be a part of the journey this year.
yeah. Thank you.
Mhm.
Before we get into it, I just want to ask so everybody's on the same page, um, some people may have an idea of what a chakra is, but like they've heard like third eye or their root, different energy centers in the body. But as somebody who's been working in this work for over 20 years, how would you define a chakra and how can you activate one?
Okay, that's a great question. I love it right off the bat. Yeah, so chakra, is a Sanskrit word and it actually means wheel. So, it's describing an experience, kind of dimension, a quality that actually we don't really have words for in our language. That's one of the reasons why I use that word, not to disorient people and go to another language system, but because it accurately describes something that we don't really have a word for. I mean, we call it energy center, but I think wheel, is it's more accurate, right? There's a shape and there's also a movement, right? And so chakras, one way I like to describe it is, they're kind of emanations of our nervous system. So if you were to look, go to a doctor's office and you see the charts on the wall, right? And the first chart is, say, the muscular system, right? And you see all the muscles, or the skeletal system, all the bones. If you were to look at the nervous system, right, a diagram of the nervous system, and you looked along the spine, right, what you would find is what we call plexi, right, or plexus, right, many plexus, singular plexi. They're gathering places of
Right.
nerves along this kind of central axis, right? We have, well, actually down the legs, we have the sciatic nerve, the second largest nerve in the body. So a lot of mass of nerves. You have the sacral plexus, you have the solar plexus, right at
Hmm.
the belly button, right? Kind of just
Right.
above the belly button. People know that one, most commonly. The cardiac plexus, the thoracic plexus, and then you get up here, and of course you have, a lot of nerve activity just from, the brain and everything that's going on there. So, using that as a physiological template of like, oh, along the spine, nerves kind of come together, right? Then we shift to what, yogis have been, working with and articulating for thousands of years, is the chakra system. And so superimposed upon these nerve centers, right, are these energy centers. And so we have the root chakra, right, the sacral chakra, the navel chakra, the heart chakra, the throat chakra, right, the third eye and the crown, seven major chakras. Now, there are minor chakras. We can get into that later. But, that's an important kind of understanding to have when we talk about chakras, that there is kind of a physiological, kind of basis for an energetic experience. And I even, take that a step further. I call chakras, they're physical, emotional, and energetic kind of aspects of, what we are, right? As physically embodied, but emotional and energetic beings that walk around in this world.
Yeah.
um, so is that, I'll just pause there. I want to do a brief exercise to kind of tune us in, but I just
Yeah.
want to see if you have any questions about what I just said or comments.
I think that's such a great way of explaining the chakra system and relating it to the kind of Western materialistic, maybe reductionistic mindset, because we actually can physically see through science like these plexus as you described them throughout the body, and then whenever you overlay a map of like the chakra system, they're actually like all kind of um imprinted on each other. And yeah, I love the like I'm actually a certified yoga teacher, and I've been studying, chakras and yoga for, 10 years or so. And I love the way that you described how the chakras are like a physical, emotional, and spiritual um uh powerhouse, really, like this wheel. Because they really can um kind of be present in many aspects of our life. So I think that was a really great explanation. And I know that we'll get into it more, but I'm curious about this activation that you want to do.
Sure. Yeah. And I think, and thank you for saying that. I really try to take, chakras out of the woo-woo.
Yeah.
That's one of my missions, because I think, as soon as you hear a word that like comes from another language and you're like, what does that mean? And people are always like, oh, like that lives somewhere else. And so that's why I start with that explanation of like really grounding it in and connecting it to the nervous system. Um,
Totally.
and, seeing that superimposed, kind of having that vision of ourselves of like, oh, there's something already there. And I just want to add that, when we think about the nervous system, and our nerves, so to speak, right? Even inherently within that conversation, it's physical, emotional, energetic, right? You can, our nerves tell us, oh, there's the stove is hot, right? You touch something hot, don't do that, right? There's an information, kind of circuitry with our body, and we have a response, right? But similarly, we use, language in our own culture to describe this emotional and energetic aspect of the nervous system, which is, hey, I'm feeling really nervous today. Yes, that might have, kind of physical or physiological responses, right? I'm jittery, my heart rate is activated, I'm sweaty, but it lands, right, in this kind of emotional place, right? And we know that,
Hmm.
our nerves are connected to our feelings, right? If we're stressed out, right? Our nerves are, receiving information from the world, and it affects us emotionally. And if we can stretch that a little bit further, and I think this is where a lot of the chakra work comes, right? If we can expand our kind of energetic, right, vocabulary into, kind of how does that feel energetically, right, in the subtle
Hmm.
realm. And that's really where I think chakras and learning about the chakras, really can serve us well as humans, is to expand that, kind of vocabulary personally and in our relationships about, well, how am I feeling energetically, right?
Yeah.
What do I, am I feeling like I want to move towards something and engage with it, or am I trying to move away from it, right? Is it expansive, right? Is it contractive? Um, you know, and so again, these are all interrelated, but I think that, landing with the nervous system, is grounding, and we already have a language, right? As
Right.
humans and Westerners around, oh yeah, my nerves, right? It's not just a physical thing. It does expand into the emotional and energetic. Was that
Yeah.
helpful? Just a little
Yeah,
more.
I think that's so good. I mean, you're already, reaching um it- you're coming to people with from the nervous system and the anatomical body, and then you're also reaching people with language. We're essentially, what you're saying is we're expanding our vocabulary into these other realms of experience that we everybody experiences on the day to day. Like, if that person gives me bad vibes, like, what does that mean? Or like, does this, does this food sit well with me? And like, or, does this place kind of, boost my energy? Or does it, like, is this person getting on my nerves? All these kind of things are experiences that we have that are hard to kind of like pinpoint. But um in my own experience, I've been able to, use my understanding of the chakras to kind of better inform my experience of life. So I'm
Bingo.
really excited to get into it some more.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. You know, that's my vision with this work, is to expand the vocabulary, because like you said, we already are having these experiences, you know, and yet we don't have language to describe them, right? We
Right.
already are physical, emotional, energetic beings in the world, right? But our Western vocabulary, you know, is very limited, you know, and that's, you know, when we get into kind of how did I get into this? I mean, that's my origin story with this work is, you know, like when I discovered the chakras, I was like, holy cow, like I've been
Yeah.
looking for this language to describe all that I am. And thank you, yoga, for, you know, having that. And I do want to say it's not just yoga that describes this, right? There are energy systems, just about every indigenous culture all over the planet, right, identifies, right, that there are energy centers along the spine. Some systems have 14 energy centers, some have 12, some have, you know, 5. I mean, but it's not just yoga, and this, you know, this concept doesn't belong to yoga. This is a human kind of experience that many cultures are you know, working to describe. But you know, I found the yogic system, and as a yoga teacher myself, you know, I was like, oh, I'm going to work with this. But I do want to just make sure that everybody knows that, you know, it's much bigger than yoga.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. So the
Do
exercise, can
you,
I do the
yeah,
exercise? Okay,
yeah, let's do this
cool.
exercise.
I'm going to just shift back here to this so you can actually see. Can you hear me
Okay.
okay?
Go ahead, try say something.
Here, I'll move the microphone. Can you hear me now?
Okay, cool.
Okay,
Yep.
great. So
So,
yes.
go ahead. Yeah.
So you can do, I'm just giving you a visual so you can actually see what's going on, but you can do this in a chair. You don't have to be down on the floor. But
Yeah, so for people who are just listening, Brooke is sitting on the floor on a bolster, or you could just be sitting in a chair. Probably shouldn't be driving if you're driving.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you want to kind of tune in. So basically, this is an exercise. So it's called activating the hand chakras. Like I said, there are minor chakras. If you looked at that same, you know, kind of nervous system diagram in the doctor's office that we were kind of referencing at the beginning, you would notice, again, all these kind of gathering places of nerves along the spine. You would also notice that the hands and the feet have a lot of nerve endings. So technically, hands and feet are considered minor chakras, right? If we're defining chakras in that way, right? So we're going to activate the hand chakras just to get a sense of, you know, what we mean when we say energy, because again, I think energy is a little bit of a vague term and it means different things for different people. So how we're going to start is basically just rubbing the palms right in front of your chest. And I'm going to remind you to just relax your shoulders. You can close your eyes and tune in not just to the heat that you're generating at your hands, also your breath. And we'll get into that later because chakras basically move prana. So we want to also move the breath as we're moving the body. But you'll just rub your hands, bring your attention to right, the palms of the hands. A couple more breaths. Good. Now I just want you to lift your arms up above your head. Keep rubbing, keep breathing. Good. 2 more breaths here. Eyes are closed. Last one. Good. And then stop rubbing. Just bring your hands down in front of your heart. Your palms are still together. On your inhale, you're going to separate your palms. So just make some space in between your hands. Notice any sensation in between the hands. On the exhale, you're going to bring your hands back in, but don't let them touch. Just let them come in. And then again, when you inhale, you're going to let them separate. And when you exhale, you're going to draw them back in. And just do that at your own pace for a little bit. I'll give you some time there. About 10 more seconds. Good. And then on your next exhale, you're just going to let the palms come all the way in so they touch right in front of your heart there, palm to palm. Good. And then take an inhale, just lengthen your spine. And on this last exhale, just press your palms in. Good. And then relax your arms for a moment. And with your eyes still closed, I want you to come up with a word, right, to describe, right, what you were experiencing in between your hands. Not what you think it is, just to describe it. Okay. Let's just take a moment, come up with a word. Maybe you have a couple words. Maybe it was complex. Good. And then I'm going to come back forward. And Michael, tell me, how would you describe, well, first of all, did you feel something in between your hands? That's the first question.
Yes, definitely. Yep.
Okay. And how would you describe that?
The first word that came was connection. And
Okay.
then after a little while, the word drawing, like drawing up, drawing like energy.
Okay.
So that came in, and it felt very similar to my qigong practice.
Ooh, tell me more.
And where uh I think the move is called around the world, where you're going like this, and then you have one hand over another hand, palms facing together like you're holding a ball, and that's basically your energy ball, so your chi ball. And then you're going like this, you're going from one side to the other and then to the center, and it almost feels like it felt exactly like this, where like, but it felt more energized from the actual, activating the minor chakras by rubbing my hands together. It felt more powerful because it to me it kind of feels like almost like I'm taking some big stretchy dough, and like the energy is like going like that, and then whenever I push it together, it kind of like buckles up on the sides, like kind of like, yeah, so like elastic goo.
I
But
love
yeah,
that. I love that. Ooh, it's so rich with description and sensation, right?
yeah,
Okay,
yep,
so I want to say, right, there's no right or wrong, right? There's no
right,
right or wrong way to describe what you were experiencing. And this is again the beginning of, developing language, right, around experience, right? So I love that. And I love that, it was gooey, it was, kind of spilled over the edges. I also love that there was a distinct kind of form to it, right? You said a couple
yeah,
times, it was a ball, like you could, it wasn't a rectangle, it wasn't a star,
right,
it was a ball.
right,
So, and it kind of changed. It was dynamic. It had, quality to it, right? Like you said, drawing, like, and, like it was moving up, right?
right, right,
And there was a stickiness to it. So I just want to pause there and say that is, first of all, you activated a chakra, right?
yeah,
So this is, first step one. This is how I always start with people is like this experience, right? Now one aspect, right? I mean, of how a chakra might present. Now, when we start to talk about energy centers along the spine, right? It's out of the vague, it's out of the woo-woo. It's like, oh, I
Hmm.
actually just felt that, right? I have a felt experience of energy, right? And
Right.
now I can literally take that and start to superimpose that into my own body and start to look for those cues as we work with the other chakras and the other energy centers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I really something that's coming to mind right now is about 7 years ago talking with an energy healer who was sharing her experience where she at one point in her life was a bartender and she was serving alcohol, and just by the act of like using her hand to pass out this toxic substance, it was actually diminishing her energy. And so to me, it kind of makes me feel like I want to be more mindful with my hands, and like just it's amazing how things in our physiology and our energy systems are so affected by our environment. But the amazing thing about something like your program is that we are able to activate just by taking a moment. And sometimes, like throughout the day, all you need is a moment to just sit there, close your eyes, and breathe, reconnect with your body, reconnect with your energy, and then you could also incorporate this. It's almost like re bringing awareness back to your energy centers. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I
I
call it like
feel
the tuning in, right? Like I do it every day. I start my day with kind of this very exercise, right? Tune in not just to my physical, but my emotional and energetic. Sometimes my ball is very small, right?
yeah.
And that gives me information about where I'm at, sometimes, ooh, my energy is very expansive, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
it's dense. Sometimes it's light. Sometimes there's color. Sometimes it's tingly. Sometimes it's sticky. Sometimes there's more out than in. I mean, this is a great, foundational exercise for learning more about energy, right? Because that's
Right.
basically what we're describing. And that's why I say, I want you to describe it rather than tell me what it is. Because a lot of times when I do it, people are like, oh, that's energy. And I'm like, yeah, that of course it's energy, right?
Right.
We know that, but what we want to learn, and this is what is so great about the chakra system, is that there are different aspects to energy. Energy isn't just one thing. It's vast, right?
Right.
And we have through the chakra system, we have the ability to embody and activate, right? And use many different aspects of energy, right? We
Right.
can access, for example, right? The heavy, dense, slow energy, right, of the root chakra, right?
Hmm.
And we do that by tapping into the body consciousness through particular poses and ways of breathing, right? The slow, rooted, grounded energy that we already embody, right,
Right.
in our legs and our feet, right?
Right.
To contrast that, right? Say we want to access the fiery, right, kind of energized energy, right, of the navel chakra, our digestive system, right?
Hmm.
That part of us that turns, right, food and raw material into, right, energy that we can
Right.
use through heat, right?
Right.
So there are particular poses and practices and breathing exercises that we can say, that's what I need. And so these two things, right? The tuning in, right? How is
Hmm.
our energy in this moment, right? Oh, my energy's kind of contracted. It's a little dense. It's a little slow. I know where I'm going to for the rest of my day. I need to be a little perked up and a bit more
Right.
energized. Boom. I need to do navel chakra activation, right?
Right.
Yoga to kind of modify my energy. So this is really the vision there is tuning in, right? Being aware, developing an energetic vocabulary, and then learning the tools to kind of modify at will, right? You know, who we want to be, what we need to be for what's presenting in our life, short term and long term. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like um it's almost like you're helping people get a little bit more agency over their life, bring a little more consciousness to their life. Um, and one thing I have really become keenly aware of is like I'm a very like high energy, high achiever, high productivity person. And I do a lot of things like public facing and just like doing a lot of things, right? So like it's easy for me to become ungrounded. And I've found uh just having like it starts with the language, right? And also with how we feel in our body. So like tuning into the body, and being aware of what we may need, having the vocabulary around these different energy systems and recognizing like, oh, I'm ungrounded, like I need to activate my root chakra. And I do that in my own ways, which I like to squat. I like to have my bare feet on the earth, put my hands in the earth. If I have any anxiety, like just give that back to the earth. But there's so many other ways to activate different chakras. And I remember whenever I was doing my yoga teacher training that we would go through each pose and show like, oh, this is activating this chakra or this chakra and this. So um I think that it's really amazing what you're offering here. So what are what are some like details on the like what somebody would be getting from taking this program? And maybe maybe before that, would you describe how you got into like your origin story of like how you got into yoga and this the beginning of this chakra activation series?
Absolutely. Thank you. Great question.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I actually, great fortune on my part. I got exposed to yoga at a fairly young age. I was 18. It was in when I was in college, there was a group of older women who were, first of all, the most vibrant older women that I had ever met, and they were getting together and doing yoga weekly. And it was an open class, and I started studying with them. Now, I'm of a different generation. So back then, there were not yoga studios, right? Just to paint the picture. Um, you know,
Yeah.
this was in the 90s, right?
Right.
Actually, I think I took my first yoga class in 89, right? I
Wow.
was
Yeah.
19 years old. And
Yeah.
so, just back then, right, it was not accessible. It was not like there were yoga studios everywhere. So that's why I say I think I had good fortune, good karma to find that. And was really impressed with just the vitality of these women that were doing that. And then um, when I was 20, I had what we call a Kundalini awakening. So through my practice, my circuitry basically was um, very activated. My Kundalini, kind of rose up through my Sushumna. These are all kind of technical yogic terms, but it was a very expanded, wow, awakening moment for me in terms of I am not just a physical body.
Hmm. Right.
My physical body is an amazing vehicle and vessel, but wow, there is like so much more. It's like sticking your finger in the socket. And that really sent me on, a journey to discover what was that, right? What is Kundalini? What is energy? What is the Sushumna? What are the chakras? And fortunately, the two went together. I had was starting to build a foundation through yoga, through these classes that I was taking. And I had, a teacher that was informed about these things. And so that's how my journey began. And it was so, you know, um, expansive, to my understanding of myself, that I just kept walking down that road. And you know, that really became important to me. And then I became a yoga teacher. And then, I was like, I want people to know about this, because had I not had that kind of support, um, and vocabulary, I think, unfortunately, you know, when people have Kundalini awakenings, or, kind of expansion of consciousness, and they're not held in a vocabulary or a culture that knows, right, about that, they can become pathologized. They can
Right.
become, you know, um, labeled as kind of dysfunctional or harmful things.
Right.
And I was fortunate that that didn't happen to me,
Yeah.
and so I want to continue to create a field of understanding for people that are having these experiences, and more. And this is kind of where we segue with our work,
Right.
in
Right.
the realm of, supporting people to expand their consciousness. So
Absolutely.
I'll pause there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's man, thank you for sharing that. You were telling my story because I had a Kundalini awakening through psychedelics, and I had no foundation of yoga. In fact, I just naturally was drawn to it. I was doing meditation and pranayama before I even knew, and chanting, actually. I was chanting before I even knew what those were. But I do believe that I might have been a yogi in a past life, so it might have been just, some Akashic record leaking out into this incarnation. But I had no foundation for that, and I, flew to the sun like Icarus and burned my wings and then plummeted down.
Hmm.
And and I've heard this story throughout not just the psychedelic community, but through the yoga community as well,
Hmm.
and the intersection of them, which is kind of like where we find ourselves now. But yeah, like I know people who've had Kundalini awakenings from ecstatic dance at kirtan, or in Kundalini yoga, or in, peak psychedelic experiences. And really, like, unfortunately, we don't have a culture around that kind of experience for people. um we don't have like the language, like you're
But we
saying.
do now. That's
We
chakra activation.
Right. Right.
This is what we're doing.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, that's amazing that I feel like it's so important. Like I'm a bridge, a bridge walker. Like I go to, full in on this and full in on that, and I find, the gems of each thing. And I think that especially people who are working with plant medicine should definitely have a foundation of meditation and yoga and an understanding of the chakras, because it's wild whenever you actually understand what's happening in your body with plant medicines, and then you can also be aware of the chakra systems and your energy body. You can actually be more informed about what is happening,
Yes.
and what you may need. Like, oh, you know what, I'm feeling disconnected right now, I'm feeling disassociated, like I need to like get back in my body because I'm going out too far.
Exactly.
um yeah.
And how to get back in the body, right? Because this is
Right.
what I experienced, in my kind of youth. And a lot of people were engaging with psychedelics in ways that now we've evolved, right? There are,
We're
kind of
starting
ceremonial
to.
context. Yeah, but it was a lot more recreational. A
Yeah.
lot, and nobody had language for this. And people what I experience, and again, this informs my whole need for this practice and this vocabulary and this culture, and why I'm, so dedicated to it for 30 years now, is that, people weren't coming back into their bodies, right?
Right.
Because they weren't engaged with their bodies in the first place. They, had disassociative experiences through trauma in childhood, right? So now they're combining, recreational psychedelics. They're really leaving their body, which on one hand feels really great, right? But on
Right. Because
the
you're
other
leaving the
hand,
pain.
they literally can't find their way home, right?
Right.
And so you have a lot of people that are remaining disassociated, remaining kind of disembodied. And when you
Yeah.
do that, right, you're really disempowered, right? And
Yeah.
all kinds of, physical, mental, emotional things then, compound upon that, right? So,
Absolutely.
and I was seeing that a lot in the 90s, right? And kind of like, wow, we really need to we need to start in our bodies. We need to get into our bodies, right? All the way down to the root chakra, right? Which is,
Yeah.
really where we're accessing the primal source of connection, not just with ourselves, but with the larger energy field of the earth, right?
Right.
Which serves us, right? And we serve it, and that's a vital sense of security and solidity and grounding and a deep consciousness that we tap into. And then from there, right, then we can push off and
Right.
expand into the non-physical realms of, say, the crown chakra, and let the plant medicines take us, and show us all about the universe, right?
Right.
And then when that's done, ah, come back all the way home, right? Safe, embodied,
Integrating.
grounded.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? That's where
Yeah.
the integration occurs. That's a great word.
Yeah.
And I just saw that so much of that was disrupted, right?
Right.
And I think that, when again you have practices, when you have language, when you see the importance of all of that, right? It provides a much more, enhanced and you know, integrated experience, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so vital that we have a and I think that there's kind of a culture around disembodiment. I think that it kind of um is symptomatic of this westernized mind worshiping. Capita means head, capitalism,
Yeah.
right? Kind of
Yes.
like mind worshiping intellectual ideology, and a lot of it too may come from different religions. I know, like, if you're always just, like, I know with the Hare Krishnas, like, this world is a prison planet. Like, we're trying to transcend, never come back. We never want to come back, right? Like, this is so bad. Like, and then again, also, with some versions of Christianity, and also like everybody's opinion is different, but that we're trying to get to heaven, and like this is just kind of like a battlefield. Um, and for me, like growing up, like I had unresolved trauma that I didn't really know how to deal with, and psychedelics were an escape for me. Like you had said, it felt good to kind of transcend this, this ego and this personality identity. But really, I did more damage in the beginning than good, and mental health suffered for a while. But luckily I have strong fortitude, and I was able to find my way back. And but it's not that easy. And then again, we don't really have the culture or support around these experiences. So it was amazing that you were able to have kind of that the group of women that, and that the teachers that were able to support you during that process and help you integrate at such an early age.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm super grateful for that. And you know, paying it forward. I mean, that's my vision, is to create that, you know, foundation for, you know, children, right? To have that vocabulary so that, you know, at the very beginning, right, we, you know, we're raising children that have, you know, a vocabulary to describe their experiences, you know, in these realms. And also as adults, you know, we're learning these tools that maybe we didn't have as children,
Yeah.
and using that as a basis, you know, to then expand our consciousness even more,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And I love that what you're saying about too this capita, and you know, this, you know, kind of very much reinforcement around disassociating from the physical body. I
Mhm.
will say too, there's a deeper level of kind of, you know, my intention with this work is that, you know, when I went to college, you know, I was studying environmental education, right? And so, you know, my my roots go back to, you know, how can we connect with the planet, right? Because
Mhm.
obviously, right, the path that we're going down and that we see is a result of, you know, a disconnection. And I think all those things that you said, various spiritualities, various, you know, cultural, you know, kind of paradigms. And what I saw early on, um, was that, you know, as much as I was trying to get people to connect with the planet, right, through environmental education programs, um, you know, if if they are not first and foremost actually in their bodies, right?
Right.
Like if they're disconnected with themselves, how are they
Right.
going to be able to connect with the planet, right?
Right.
And so I kind of took, you know, a segue of, you know, developing, you know, becoming a yoga teacher and developing yoga programs around, you know, embodiment and energy activation,
Yeah.
and laying that foundation,
Yeah.
right, as a as a precursor, if you will, or a, you know, prerequisite to then developing environmental education programs that, you know, are kind of a phase two of like, okay, now we're in our body, great, you know,
Wow.
now let's connect with the planet, right?
Right.
And
It's like, let's start with our own planet first, that we, yeah, that we inhabit.
right,
Right.
because
Yeah.
humans are that way. I mean, we, you know, unfortunately, I think we want to think that we can, you know, connect with others, but that's not, you know, and that's actually, that's what the yoga, you know, the chakra system teaches, is the foundational, you know, the root chakra, right? The
Yep.
first aspect of consciousness that we develop and we need to develop is self, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
self-care, it's embodiment, it's, you know, safety and security and protection of,
Boundaries.
yeah, this thing, right?
Right.
And you know, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? I mean, these concepts are not new. I mean, we only when we feel, when we're in this and we feel like this is okay, then we can start to open up the lens and be like, oh, there's other things out there.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
I should engage with them, and maybe I could care about them too. But this is just how we're wired. And again, that connects to the whole, you know, chakras as nervous system things. We can't really bypass that, you know,
Right.
and nor should we, right? This
Right.
is the gift that we've been given. You know, this is the vehicle. This is, you know, the holy temple, and let's get in it, you know,
Right. Right.
and then from there. But I think because of childhood traumas, because of cultural programming, a lot of people just aren't in their bodies, right?
Right.
They're just
Right.
not in their bodies. And so that's kind of where we start.
Yeah. And I love that you start with the root, and then you work your way up, once once a month to the crown chakra. So you're starting January 21st, which is in a few days, and then
Yep.
going to June 30th for the crown. And it's funny because it's like, I really, you know, I'm 31, so I was born in 92. A lot of people in my generation, we've seen the 1900s, we've seen the Y2K, we went from cell phone to smartphone, and now, 5G, everything's crazy now. We got AI. And a lot of us have just been like, like we want like the all the the good drugs. We want the high spiritual activities, and I think that really, I feel like I didn't like I've done a lot of spiritual work throughout my life, but I really didn't start fully embodying it until I focused on my body and my root. And
Mhm.
because like you can only ascend as far as, your tree branches can only grow as high as your roots are in the ground.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
so um really, like it's really about integrity. And so like, how far after this Kundalini awakening did you start to develop the program and start actually teaching it?
Yeah, great
And
question.
what was the and if you want to, what was like the integration process, if you had any details on that for anybody who's maybe feeling disembodied right now?
Well, I think practice, 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 I mean, you know, and like I said, having a foundation of yoga, and a community that was supportive to kind of keep me coming back into my body. This is kind of to your last point, how was I
Yeah,
integrating my initial Kundalini awakening? And I do say initial Kundalini awakening because I think once that pathway, first time that pathway is activated, woo, it's like it's super strong. But I mean, kind of the goal is to have constant, right, energy running through your sushumna, right? And
right,
and the more we work these tools, right, and the more we see ourselves as an embodiment of light, then that becomes, right, our new normal. That's what we
right,
want. Right. But first time it's a little bit jarring because wow, that's a lot of energy, running through a circuit that's, hasn't been really activated or opened, there's a lot of gunk in there, right?
right.
That needs to be cleared. And again, we don't know what that is. We don't have language for it. We think we're crazy. People tell us that we're crazy, all kinds of things. So, like I said, fortunately, I was able to just keep running energy through that system and, stay embodied, right, and grounded through the practices, and had, a teacher and a community that, again, I mean, it wasn't, you know, I wasn't in like some ashram or something. These were regular, ordinary, like householder folks, but they've been doing the practices for a while. They had a better understanding than say if I would have gone to my parents. Oh my God.
Oh yeah,
Right?
you'd be
Thank
on
God I
psych meds
didn't.
probably.
I mean, that's when people go into like wards and stuff like that. I mean, I'm
Yep.
not kidding. That's,
No, absolutely, yeah. No,
and
there's been times in my life where if I talk to a doctor about my experiences, that I'd be in a psych ward.
yeah, exactly. And I've seen it happen. And this is again,
Yeah,
fuel for the fire and the vision of like, I now I teach, I'm in hospitals. I work with physicians. I'm working with integrative medical facilities. I don't call it chakras, right? Because still that word is a little bit, kind of woo-woo for people. But
yeah,
I'm really pushing that boundary to get people to, engage with this concept slash reality that we are more than, just physical beings, and that let's, expand the vocabulary to the emotional and energetic and start taking care of those parts of ourselves. And in the integrative medical, kind of field, there is receptivity to that, right? That's why they're calling it integrative,
right,
because they're interested in that integration of physical, emotional and energetic. So there's hope.
right.
But, you know, um, so back to your question, kind of, practice, practice, practice. And my journey then was, kind of deep exploration, books, diving deeply into, I found like I had a Turkish friend who showed up with like, yogic manuals written in Turkish that had like, energy centers, and I had her translate. It was just compiling and just
Yeah.
gathering as much information as I possibly could. Again, this was in the 90s. In 2000, I discovered, I had, again, the good fortune of discovering Kundalini yoga. I had been doing kind of traditional Hatha Sivananda style, a little bit more, classic
Yeah.
yoga. And then I discovered Kundalini yoga, which again works with Kundalini, very intentional, a bit more, kind of fast tracking with the energy work. Um, and that, really was a big part of my growth. I did Kundalini yoga solely, got my teacher's training in that and did that probably solely for about 5 or 6 years. But then I missed my Hatha roots, right? And so this is the birth of chakra activation yoga. Is it's actually a fusion style, right?
Yeah.
It's, and it could, because again, there is no one path, right? Many cultures, many tools, many ways of describing this. But, through my own experience, I was like, hey, Kundalini yoga has some pretty awesome ways of getting us there, right? Getting us into the physical, emotional, energetic body,
Right.
activating each of the chakras. You can Google it and, say Kundalini yoga for the root chakra, Kundalini yoga for the heart chakra. That's, a big thing. Um,
Right.
and, it's a different approach, right? And Kundalini yoga doesn't really work for everybody or every day, right? It's a bit more energizing. It can kind of, you know, like you said, if you have a temperament, right, that already, right, is a bit fiery or, energized, right? You might want to kind of engage with more of the classic, right, postures, right, that are
Hmm.
asking you to be still and hold a pose, right,
Right.
and
Static
run the
poses
prana
and
through
yin.
the system, right, rather than keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. So again, this is where chakra activation yoga kind of is like, hey, we're going to try a couple different approaches, right? And at different times in your life, at different times of the year, depending on
Hmm.
what you're working through, one of these poses is going to get you there, meaning one of these poses is going to have you feel that energy that we felt in between our hands, right? At a place along the spine, right?
Amazing. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and
And
then
plus too, I
yeah,
just want to add that whenever people are taking this series, that they're not just watching a YouTube video or Googling something. They're actually, you have Q&As after the sessions, like a week after the session, so that they can talk to you about this kind of stuff and say like, I'm feeling this, and you could suggest something else or give them encouragement in their practice.
absolutely. That's the culture, that's the vocabulary. Those are called the energy integration sessions.
Yeah.
And not just me. There's Q&A, there's, hey, am I doing this right? I didn't understand this. I'm having challenge with this. I've been doing this at home, Um, but also, you know, everybody gets, we pass the talking stick and, hey, how is root chakra presenting to you in your body, emotionally, energetically at this time? So we can really start to expand that vocabulary. As we've said earlier, your story is my story, is somebody else's story. And when we,
Right.
create an opportunity to share about what our experiences are, it's validating. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even, I was feeling that, but I didn't even know like how to articulate that. It's
Right.
really important part of the process. And like you said, it's kind of after. So the way that the chakra activation series goes is we do an activation at the beginning of the month. So that's 2 hours poses and practices, right? That's live streamed. via Zoom. So, you can ask questions while it's happening. You're seeing me doing it,
Oh,
everybody's
cool.
doing it together, so they're not pre-recorded. Those are live streamed.
Yeah.
And then you have a bit of time to work the tools, right? So, and then, midway through, then we meet and do the energy integration session also through Zoom, live streamed Q&A. People are sharing, questions, whatever. And then when you sign up for the whole series, all these are recorded and the replay lives on a membership platform. So you can watch, the activation as many times as you want. You want to plug into that every day, every
Oh,
week, you can go back and do it. And of course, you can watch 10 minutes of it. You can be like, wow, there was that thing that we did. I want to watch it again. That lives up on your membership platform for, 7 months. Actually, you have access to that for a whole year, right? So the
nice.
2024 activations, you have access to that. Same thing with the integrations. They live up there. You also
Cool.
get every month, we start the month with an about video. It's like a short video, but it's about each chakra, right? So
Yeah.
you find, the associations, the colors, the body parts, the aspects of consciousness, the numbers, the Sanskrit name. We're just kind of oriented towards, the
Right.
elements,
Is that
the
is that the video I just did the assessment quiz. So
okay,
you on your website you have the chakra assessment quiz.
yes,
Is and mine was the throat chakra.
okay,
Um which I was it kind of makes sense. And I definitely feel like um activating my throat has been kind of a perennial theme over the last 12 months for me.
hmm,
So I'm really looking forward to that one for sure.
yeah,
But yeah, there was like you do an assessment and then you get an email that says, I think, maybe you should work on this chakra. And then I clicked a link and then I got like a 10-minute video from you.
hmm,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, so that's good. I'm so glad you did that. That's what, you signed up for the whole series. You're going to be taking this whole journey. And yeah, that's all over the membership is take the assessment because that's helpful information, right?
yeah.
Um,
And
you
that
know,
can change throughout somebody's, it can change throughout your week depending on
right.
what you're going through. So,
Absolutely. That's a
because
really
these
good
are
point.
fluid dynamic parts of ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But it's helpful going into the series for two reasons, right? If you're doing the whole series, like you said, you're like, oh, I'm excited for throat chakra. I mean, that's not until like April, May, but you at least have, some kind of orientation
yep,
and reference point around where you're at right now. And like you said, I mean, I also encourage people to take that chakra assessment as we progress throughout the series.
right,
And then at the end of the series, I mean, that's free. You can take that as many times as you want, right? Um,
totally,
it's also super helpful for people that might not want to do the whole series or have done the whole series with me before, because this is, again, 21
right.
years of doing this. I have a lot of people that, have done this multiple times, the whole series. And sometimes people are like, I kind of know these other things, but I'm going to take the assessment and find out, for 2024,
Right,
what do I really need to tune into,
right, right.
and just take that one. Now, when you just do a single chakra, you don't get the replays, you just get the activation and the integration Zoom link. So
Yeah,
it's a little different, but again, those options exist for people. The
right.
other thing that you do get with the whole series, and I don't know if you watched it yet, Michael, but it's really interesting, is the energy anatomy video.
No, I
Um,
didn't watch that.
okay, you might want to do that, at some point, maybe
Yeah,
before we start on Sunday with the root chakra. But that's, it's a little bit kind of the hand chakra thing that we did. But it explains, basic energy anatomy from a yogic perspective. So we talk about the central energy channel, which is the sushumna, right? Which
yeah,
basically I describe as it's like a hollow tube, right? That's the best, simplest way to describe it. And, as you were even, kind of articulating at the first exercise, right? Chakras are balls. right?
Hmm.
I don't hear people come out of that experience and say, oh, it was a big triangle. It's definitely an energy ball, similar to the chi ball, right?
Right.
Prana ball.
Qigong.
Again, these things are not unique to yoga. Different systems
Right.
describe it, right? This kind of dynamic thing. But you
Yep.
can, once you have that hand kind of reference, then you put, the chakras into the energy tube, the hollow tube, right? And it's like, if you've ever had, what are those drinks that
Oh,
you,
boba.
that's how I like to
Yes.
imagine a big thick straw with like different colored, right? Like
Like
tapioca balls.
multicolored boba balls. That's your chakra system.
Yeah,
You need
exactly. That's your
rainbow boba
energy now,
now.
right?
Rainbow boba. That's a $1 million idea right there.
Right. But that's a great way. I mean, again, as we expand our vocabulary, we also want to expand our visual vocabulary. What do I look like energetic?
Right.
Right. And so now that we see that, okay, and then there's the colors, right? And I really, the colors are really important, not because we like colors, but red, okay, is a, it has a longer wavelength, a lower frequency, right,
Right.
vibrationally, right,
Right.
than say indigo here, right?
Right.
Indigo's
Right.
really, it's a higher frequency vibration. That's
Right.
why we use the colors. That's why I use the colors,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. I mean, it makes sense on so many different levels of reality.
Mhm.
I mean, literally, we're talking about the most primal base, materialistic, like survival center of our body, and
Right.
then comparing it to like, the upper realms. I mean, some people even say that the crown doesn't even have a color, or it's like, indigo, and as you move up, it's literally the light spectrum.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So and
Yep.
then, as the combination of everything is all of visible light that we see, and we're
Right.
expressing ourselves as the entire spectrum of everything that we can experience in this
Yes.
in this body, which um it's just another, for me, like, I am very spiritual and very scientific, and like both of that is like woven together as who I am, and I love the fact that like the chakra system and like the whole rainbow spectrum, is the visible spectrum of light, is the same. So
Absolutely. And that's what we're doing in this work, right? We are literally igniting the light. Right? That's like
yeah.
my tagline for chakra activation yoga, right? It's
Yeah.
igniting the light and embodying the light,
Right.
right? And that, this way of seeing ourselves as, right, like ideally we are luminous, we are full spectrum, right? We are,
Hmm.
but that in that full spectrum, kind of light that we are, there are different aspects of consciousness, right?
Right.
So each color, each chakra, right, represents a different, kind of energy that we can embody and use at will, right? And so the more that and that's why the Chakra Activation Series is really great, because we spend a month, right, on each of these different aspects of consciousness, right? These
Right.
different vibrational states, these embodied energies, right? And we start at the root, right? Which again, it's the most basic, it's the foundational, it's right, self
I
taking
am.
ownership and authority of this, right? And
Yeah.
then we go up, right, and we end up at the crown. And then as we do the whole series, we've literally activated each of these energy centers, and by July we're in our full spectrum capacity. We have a much better understanding of all we are, and we have tools that when
Yeah.
we feel like when we do this exercise in the morning and we're like, oh shit, I'm really like up here. I need to kind of balance that out, right? And
Hmm.
ground. I have the tools that I, can use to, modify my energy at will.
Yeah.
So yeah. So check
Very
out that
cool. And that,
energy anatomy video too, and in the
I
membership, because it's
will.
really
Yeah,
cool.
definitely. Yeah, and I love that the people have access to the replays because whenever they take the full course, because um some people may need to reference back to the root or something like that, as they move up. Um
Absolutely. Yeah.
and I love that it's not jam packed into an intensive. I whenever I took my yoga teacher training course, I think it was like 6 to 8 months, and we met like once a week or twice a week or something like that. And it was really like it gave me time to digest the whole thing.
Mhm.
I think intensives can be great because it's like a full immersion experience, but I wonder how much um integration is able to happen whenever you're just getting like, it's like you're putting your mouth up to a fire hose. So I think it's great that you're focusing like we're just doing the root, and it's also seasonally, talking about, and we didn't even get into like plants and everything like that, is
But we
that
will.
we will as we go through these chakras. We'll be talking about the plant's life cycle of, and right now it's January. There's really not much going on out in Pennsylvania where we live. And but from an herbalist perspective, the things that we are harvesting are the roots. The where the energy is stored in a plant right now is in the roots. And so it's just very fitting seasonally, which Ayurveda is also, a sister science to yoga. Really focuses on seasonality of things. So it's kind of like interwoven in many aspects of life. So I think it's really great
Absolutely.
that we're starting in the winter, starting with the root,
Mhm.
and I look forward to talking about, yeah, the plant's life cycle with you with that in that regard.
Absolutely. And it's really intentional, on my part that we do start the chakra year in January every year, with the root chakra, right? When, as you said, at least in, the northern hemisphere, what we're experiencing is, quiet, stillness, that real kind of dormancy, right, of not just the root but also the seed, because this is kind of what we
Right.
see with the chakra activation series is we follow the progression, right, of the potent the potent dormant seed, right? That's really where we begin in this journey, right? And
Hmm.
then as that awakens, right,
Right.
um
That
through
potential.
root chakra
Yeah.
activation, yep, right, and we see it start to grow as is reflected in the natural world, right? And
Right.
so, sacral chakra becomes the sprouting of that seed, right? So you have roots going down, right, and sprout coming up, right, which is the power of two, right, which is what we experience also in our physical body, the hips, the
Right.
legs, right, this kind of beautiful
Right.
symmetry and balance between, right and left and up
And
and down,
then
right?
as
So
above, so below,
exactly,
which
right?
is
So
one of
that's
the Hermetic principles. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's sacral. Then, at by the time navel comes, right, when we're in March, we start to see things really sprouting up, right? And that's that development of our strong core, right? The stemming,
Mm.
the trunking, right? That uprightness, right?
Yeah.
So, and then at the heart, right, we start to leaf out, right?
Hmm.
And we develop our respiratory systems just as we're seeing in the outer world, the respiratory systems of the plant world, which of course we are dependent upon, right? And there is that
Right.
balanced exchange between what, our carbon dioxide and their oxygen. And thank you very much, heart
Yep.
chakra, right? I know. And then we get to flowering, right? And kind of releasing pollen, and then finally back up here, we're fruiting and we're seeding, right, within the
Yeah.
fruit, and the generation of that whole seeding cycle, we get back to, a fruit that contains the seed and has the potential to expand and grow into a different, generation. So
Yeah.
I'm that's just a little preview, but that's what, you and I are going to be exploring in additional podcasts as, we're both journeying through the Chakra Activation Series. So, oh, I'm so
Yeah.
excited about that.
Oh, I know. I'm so stoked for this because it's I can already feel how this is going to inform more of my herbalism practice. So, um yeah, but so yeah, before we close up the episode, I just wanted to ask, like, if there's one, what has been one of the biggest takeaways for you in the 21 plus years of you doing this series with people? Yeah, what has been one of the most potent takeaways for you? Jewels of wisdom, if you have one.
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I would say, my first impulse is that there's always more. I'm, I learn every year. My work is not done on this journey at all. It's one of those rich um kind of topics, or truths, I would say, that is never ending, constantly presenting in new ways. I mean, I do this for myself. I started this work, because I needed this work. And I
Right.
continue to find new ways of articulating my experience, new tools to assist me and fortify me in an ever changing and challenging world.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps me coming back and being able to re-engage with others that, are experiencing, the same challenges, right? Want to expand their vocabulary around their experience. And, as brought us to this conversation, people that are interested in expanding their consciousness, and working with, you know, plants and the medicine that they bring, and so I think it's always been rich, and I've always, learned more and more, and I don't see that potential ever stopping. I mean, I'm thrilled that I have, these tools, and I think that it's carried me a long way, and um I know that it can carry others, and I also see that the journey just is continuing. So
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah, I think that the most uh powerful creations that people make are initially spawned by something that they needed themselves personally. And I hear that in your story in creating this series. It was the same thing with me with medicinal mushroom tinctures and yeah, that really the journey's never over. It's just like, okay, what's next?
Mhm.
And sometimes we take a pause, we take a breather and go, okay, I've done a lot. I need to pause for a little bit and just chill and enjoy life. And then you realize that, like, you can develop a cadence and a rhythm to um finding that joy in the growth process, and that there are natural times in nature of, like, right now where things are kind of dormant, and we can kind of take a breather and rest. And so yeah, thank you. I really look forward to embarking on this 7 month journey with you and all the other participants. And thank you for taking the time today to talk about the chakra systems and your series, and also share some of your story that I haven't heard. So yeah, appreciate you, Brooke. Thank you.
My pleasure. I appreciate you so much, Michael. This has been just, wonderful as we imagine it would be. And yeah, I'm just thrilled. As you can tell, I get very excited about this. So it's
Yes.
great to have a
Yes.
platform. And I just want to review, if I can, briefly
Yep.
for people. So
Yep.
different ways to engage, right? So I think Michael will be putting up links for this stuff, but so the whole series begins this Sunday, right? We go from root to crown, 7-month journey, activations, integrations on a membership site. And that starts Sunday, January 21st from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right?
Yep.
And so
I'll
that's,
have
yeah,
I'll have links to your website and then also our Instagram handles on the descriptions.
okay,
And then if you're listening to this from Instagram, you can go into Brooke's link tree on her bio, and
nice.
she'll have a link on there.
Yeah.
But you just want to make sure that you sign up before Sunday. When do you have like a cutoff day or?
Yeah, it's going to be Saturday at midnight.
Yeah.
That's generally when we close down. And I'm at Chakra Activation. That's where you'll find the link tree link on Instagram. And I also just want to say too, say you're just like, well, I don't know if I want to sign up for the whole series. You can definitely sign up for Root Chakra, right? Again, before Saturday at midnight, because Root Chakra is Sunday from 1 to 3. And that link is also in the link tree. It's just a single chakra. And see how it goes, right? You're like, well, I never worked with Brooke, whatever, you can see how it goes. You won't get access to the replays, but if you decide from there, oh my God, this was amazing, I want to do the membership, we can follow up, and that option is available. In
Right.
any case, everybody should do the free chakra assessment. It's on my website, chakrayogahealing.com. And it's a great way to just kind of assess where you're at right now. And you get some follow-up emails with like some blog posts and, a little bit about each of the chakras. So that's super helpful. The other thing that I didn't quite mention, but I wanted to say, there is a hard copy. This is the chakra activation deck, right?
Right.
And
I
it
got one of those
is
at my house.
yeah, it's a great tool. As you can see, a whole bunch of cards color coded for the chakras, right? It has poses and practices, pranayama, affirmations, bija mantras, about the chakras, right? Just really gets you oriented. That's basically the same content that
Yeah.
we do in the series. It's kind of like the syllabus or the required reading. And that's a great thing to get at any time, right? As a reference, I pull a card a day. Sometimes you can create a whole chakra spread if you're a yoga teacher and you want to get more educated. Oh, that's the other thing. If you're a yoga teacher doing the series, you
Oh,
can get
right.
continuing education units too, 25 continuing education units. So that's
Right.
pretty awesome. And then I do a whole advanced teacher training if you want to eventually become a chakra activation yoga teacher. Um,
Okay.
that's the prerequisite, is start at level 1 with the series, and then we go on.
Right. So yeah, if you're RYT 400 hour or beyond and you have to have the continuing education, then this would add 25 points. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
very
So
cool. So it's accredited with the Yoga Alliance.
it is. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
So, yeah, so those are the resources. Thank you so much, Michael. And I'm so excited to do Root Chakra with you. Is there anything else you want to share?
No, I'm just really excited to embark on this journey. I've been wanting to get back into yoga in general. I have been slacking in that area. So I think this is going to be good incentive for me. And also it'll have a little bit more intention because it's oriented with each chakra. So I look forward to just having these tools in my tool belt to kind of pull from whenever I need to maybe work on my solar plexus or my throat or my root or whatever I'm feeling. So,
Yeah,
um, yeah, thank you,
that's what
Brooke.
it's all about. Yeah.
And yeah, and we'll see you on Sunday.
Okay. Sounds great. Have a great
All
day.
right. All right. Bye. Thanks for enjoying another episode of the Gab Lab. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe, share it with your friends, leave us a 5-star review. It all helps the algorithm. If you want to follow us on Instagram, it's gablab.show. and there are other links in the show notes. Please follow the guest, and we will see you in the next episode.
Yeah,